I tear the skin from the bone just to feel you. Baby,
Punters, how's it going? This is episode 42 of CueBall's Bearded Rambles. And today I have a very, very special guest. He's a former WWF, WCW, CWF, and Suncoast Pro Wrestling superstar. He is a superstar. He's a Malenko alumni. And he is also best known for his matches against the likes of Sting, Cactus Jack, Arn Anderson, and all the other wrestling legends that we all know and love. Punters, I give you the master of the punch, Mr. Bob Cook.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I appreciate that introduction. Speaking of superstars, I was called the masked superstar when I wrestled for Suncoast Pro Wrestling.
I know. Then that will be brought up during this as well, because I'd like to speak to you about this masked superstar.
I still have the mask.
Ah, sweet. Happy days. That's cool. So, how have you been, Mr. Bob Cook? It's been... Go on, sorry.
I'm doing really good, especially the last few months. Things have been falling into place. Been going to the gym 6 days a week. Yes, I'm 57 years old, but I'm doing my best to make it to 58. 59 is a little itchy, iffy, but I'm trying to make it to 50.
Well, hopefully you'll get there. Going to the gym 6 days a week, that will more than likely help you.
I didn't say I was working out. I just said I go to the gym, I hang out, I play on my phone. What most people do at the gym.
Yeah, that's about right. No, that's cool though. It's good that you're trying to keep healthy on your phone in the gym, and just do what everybody does. The only thing I have noticed that you don't do is post on Facebook about you going to the gym.
No, I don't. If you see a post from me from the gym on Facebook, it's after I've worked out.
Yeah, because normally people when they go to the gym because it needs to be known doing it. Apparently, if you don't put stuff on Facebook, then it never happens.
Because you got to put over the fact that you're working out, because most people are overbeared, obnoxious, pig-faced bastards, overweight, morbidly obese, cretinous creatures of the night. So when you're out there trying to do the opposite of the rest of the world, you got to kind of brag about it.
Yeah, that's it. So, are you ready for the questions, Bob?
Sure.
So, as I always say at the start of my podcasts, videocasts, whatever, everybody in wrestling has a story, and I love to listen to them. So, Bob, for the dozens and dozens watching at home or listening, how and why did you get into this crazy business of wrestling?
Well, I was dropped on my head when I was a kid, and then I had a cement mixer fall. No, I'm just kidding. Well, that part's true. But anyways, I started watching it in 1975 here in Florida, and I fell in love with it. I was only 12 years old, and I instantly, at that moment when I saw it, I said, man, I want to do that someday. Like a lot of kids do. And I just got lucky. No, I did really get lucky. Because in my day, you couldn't Google a wrestling school, unfortunately. Because that would mean, if you could Google a wrestling school in my day, you know what that would mean? Would your listeners know what that would mean?
I don't know.
It would mean I'm not so freaking old. That's what it would mean.
So how old was you when you started doing your wrestling training?
I was 18. I started in 1981.
Then I was at the Malenko Academy, am I correct?
Yep. And that's where I got lucky, because back then, like I said, wrestling schools, they weren't on every street corner. Nobody had rings in their backyard. Although we had a ring in our backyard as a kid, a makeshift ring. Nowhere near like a real ring, but we had fun in it. In our world, it was a real ring.
Yeah.
But I was just coming out of the Armory in Tampa, where they held wrestling every Tuesday night for like 35 years for the original Championship Wrestling from Florida show. And there was a flyer on my car that said, become a pro wrestler. And it was the Malenko school, and I went the next day and started training, and that was it. So it was literally pure luck, because they didn't put those flyers on the cars every week. I just happened to be there, and that was there, and now I'm here. And I'm in a lot of pain today for some reason. Oh, might have been all those bumps I took.
Might have something to do with it. Not quite sure. Couldn't tell. Not really sure. But so you went to the Malenko Academy. I've had a couple of Malenko alumni come on here, and they've all had great things to say about Boris or Larry, however you know him, Dean and Joe. So what is some of your stories about the Malenko Academy?
That was fantastic. I mean, you hear a lot of stories of, or even see videos of the way other people were trained, or they'll tell stories. Oh, we were beat up. They stretched us for 6 months, didn't even smarten us up. Well, Malenko smartened us up day one. He never beat you up. He never stretched you. He showed you from the beginning what wrestling was about. And you know what that meant? That meant you wanted to learn. You couldn't wait to get back the next week. If somebody's beating you up from day one, what's your motivation to come back? I mean, in my world, if someone was just beating me up every week and showing me that they could beat me up, and he could have, he was a tough guy, but he didn't do that. He wanted you to learn, and you wanted to learn because that was, he made you want to learn.
Yeah.
Because you knew the next week you were going to learn more. You weren't just going to get there and get beat up or humiliated or,
Yeah. No, that's good. Like I said, everybody, with the people I've had on who was trained under Boris, they've all had really nice words to say about him. Wish I had the opportunity to meet him. It sounds like a fantastic guy. And they've also said that he wasn't just like a trainer or a coach. He was a father to some people. He was a great mentor. They lived with him. And so any memories, any fun times you've had whilst at the Malenko Academy?
Well, you talk about that. He was a father figure to me, a second father figure, and to a lot of us. And to me, he was just one of those rare people that no matter how you were feeling on any given day, when you were done talking to him, he made you feel like you could take on the world, because he was one of those guys that lived 1,000 lives. He was married, he was divorced, he was successful, he'd been rich, he'd been poor, he'd been a star, his star had faded. He'd been through all the ups and downs of life. So when you had problems in your life, he could, guide you in the right direction. Now, whether you took his advice or not is up to you, but he always offered it, and it was always good. And it always made you feel like you could take on the world.
That's good. That's really good. I think that's something that a lot of people don't do nowadays. But like I said, I'm listening to other people who was Malenko Academy. It's something that I think is missed now. You don't get the coaches who actually care to a point. I think it's more case, yeah, obviously, you're there to learn, which is fair enough. You learn, but that's it. And then that's separated. But I think it's important that you, what's the word? I think it's important that you care about your trainees to a point, because, well, for reasons like this, you have some good, nice things to say about your coaches. And yeah.
You think a lot of it is that the people like the great Malenko, for a better analogy, they're a dying breed. And they're not around anymore. They're not around to teach the old school. They're not around to teach the respect that you're supposed to be taught in the beginning. And once that goes away, you're being trained by a lesser type person, a lesser type person, a lesser type person. And it's a domino effect. The disease that has taken over wrestling, where undertrained guys are training guys who become even less trained. And they have no respect. They have no right way to go about things, because they were taught by someone who wasn't taught by someone who should have taught them the right way. If that makes any sense.
Yeah,
and it's just disease is taken over. And proof of that is some of the shows you watch on YouTube. If you like to, I love to watch bad wrestling, just because as bad as old as I am, and as bad a shape as I am at times, and how you might feel about yourself, you watch that really bad wrestling, but man, I'm 57 years old and I could work circles around these idiots. So it makes you feel good.
Yeah.
But I mean, and then it really is a disease.
Yeah, it's
they need to forget the coronavirus vaccine. We need a vaccine to correct the
attitudes
course of professional wrestling.
Yeah, I agree. So how important is having the right attitude in wrestling to you?
Well, I think it means everything. If you're not taught respect, and I think it's important to know wrestling history too. I mean, there's guys you could probably ask and just start out, man, you should do what Dick Murdoch used to do, and their response would be, who's Dick Murdoch? And that's where you just want to smack them so hard. If you don't know your wrestling history, I can't imagine wanting to be part of a business like professional wrestling, where to truly be anything. And I was never anything in wrestling, but you have to at least love it and have a true passion for it. And if you don't know the history, then I mean, you should want to know the history. I mean, you should want to learn as much about it as you possibly can.
Yeah, I agree. And this is why, to me, I learn from guys like you who, who've been in the business a long time. You've uh, so you got like guys like yourself, you'd have different ways of training like we have nowadays. I personally feel the way you guys were trained was the better way than what we have now, because I would say it's a lot easier to a point. But yeah, I just feel like the old school. This is my own personal opinion. I feel the old school is the best school, if you will.
Yeah, and I mean, as far as how like the major companies train, I can't. I mean, you see what they put their guys to, and everybody in the WWE, nobody can say those people are handed anything. I mean, they bust their butt to get where they're going, and they bust their butt even more to stay there. But when you're talking about just the people who are on the indie scene, I mean, you go to highspots.com or monsterrings.com, or people right now are going, honey, we just got $6,500 in stimulus money. I know the kids need diapers and we need this and that, and Johnny needs a new set of braces. Forget that. We're buying a ring and putting it in the backyard, and we're going to start training people. Anybody can do it, and they do it. And that's what a disease is.
Yeah, not done the right way. Not done the Malenko way, as I would say, and a couple of people I know.
I mean, there's guys on the internet where you can go look up like backyard wrestling guys that are teaching you the proper way to throw a punch, and you're just like, the only thing you learn from it is you want to punch those people in the face as hard as you can. And when they stop breathing, you leave them there and let them continue to stop breathing. It's just sickening to watch.
So obviously you're more of a punch guy than a forearm guy, right? So what's your thoughts on the forearm?
I never threw many forearms. I mean, I did it once in a while, but back when I was wrestling, you guys did more punching. And it doesn't matter that in real life, if you punch somebody in the face and they get a black eye or their face swells up, if the punch looks good, your object of wrestling is to convince your audience that what's going on is real, or to at least question what's going on. So if you throw a punch that looks like it took a guy's head off and you didn't even hurt him, and yes, he doesn't have a mark like he would in real life, but those people are still going to question it because they're like, it's in front of them. They're like, I don't know if it was real. Sure damn hell looked, sure as hell looked real. That's your object in wrestling, Like I watched a match the other night on AEW between somebody named Ray Phoenix and one of the Young Buck guys, and their punches were so pathetic. It legitimately looked like two kids playing in their backyard after a freaking Sunday afternoon barbecue. Their punches were so fake, so lazy, so completely embarrassing. And this is on national TV, which makes it quadrupled embarrassing because there's people watch. I would say millions of people watch it, but let's face it, millions of people don't watch AEW.
Yeah.
But as a company that has millions of dollars behind it, there has to be somebody in that company that when those guys get behind the curtain, it doesn't matter if one of the guys is that runs the company, like the Young Buck, pull them aside and say, look, dip, moron. I was going to use some bad language, but I'm not going to do it.
No, if you want to use bad language, man.
Anyways, and show them what they're doing wrong.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how many flippity flips you can do. You can go out there and do all kinds of fancy high spots, but if you can do all that stuff in practice and get it down perfect, why can't you get your punches down perfect?
Yeah, I agree. It's
what do I know? It doesn't matter anymore. That's the point. It's not important to anybody, so it doesn't matter. It matters to me.
It should though. It should matter, and this is the problem like you're just about to say. It should matter. Just the little things the things that matter the most.
Right. It should matter from the standpoint as you take pride in everything you do. If you can do a super kick that looks like it takes a guy's head off, but you barely touch him. If you can do 3 flips over the top rope and land perfectly and not hurt the guy, fantastic. But if you can throw 4 or 5 punches back and forth that are so phony that the whole match becomes nothing but a joke, what are you accomplishing? Now that's what I've said. They need to hire Bob Cook. I couldn't be an agent where I like map out matches and stuff, but I could be a detail guy where I see stuff like that and just simply call them aside and go, what is that? And show them how to do it better, Yeah,
I agree. I did notice comments on your profile. People did say about having you go to some training schools, especially at the Dusty Road School as well. I've seen that.
Well, I know I couldn't be like a trainer. I'm not a good trainer. I tried training people back years ago. I don't have patience for it.
Okay.
To be a really good teacher, I mean, you can be the best at something and not be able to teach somebody else how to. I always tell people to just. I have a saying. It's called watch, copy, perfect. Watch guys that do things good, copy it, and perfect it as your own. It's not that hard. It isn't that easy, but it's not that hard at the same time because everything takes practice. You can find guys that know how to throw a punch. Dick Murdoch, the best puncher of all time, Jerry Lawler, Terry Funk, Ric Flair, guys that threw awesome punches, and copy how they do it.
Yeah.
And if you can't do it, then don't do it.
Yeah. That could be the reason why the forearms come into play nowadays, to be honest. But
like there's certain guys like Ric Flair is one of the greatest of all time, but when it came to giving a pile driver, he couldn't give a pile driver to save his life. He didn't do it often, but he did it once in a while, and he just like, Rick, you can't do it. Don't do it. Another guy who couldn't do the pile driver, Dusty Rhodes. Don't do it. But he still did it. There's just some things, if you can't do it, don't do it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's something else that's important as well about when you start training, don't do stuff you can't do. Because either you're going to cause an injury or you're going to injure yourself, or you're just going to just potentially hurt everything about yourself, maybe, to a point.
Yeah, the funny thing about wrestling nowadays is guys are hurting themselves more than any time in history. They're hitting themselves in a lot of instances harder than they ever have. But people still think it's fake because, people they hate the word fake, but ultimately, okay, it's not real. I probably lost 90% of my matches, but no one ever really pinned me in the matches I won. Guess what? I didn't really beat them either.
Yeah. So you've done your training at the Malenko Academy. So do you remember your first ever match you had?
Yes. It was against a guy, I can't remember his last name. His first name was Will, but he wore a mask, and I was in the opening mask. And that was the only match in the whole time I wrestled that I actually practiced the entire match. Me and him went to the school every week, and we went over the entire match from beginning to end. Lock up every aspect. It was like a 10-minute match. At the end of the match, I think I turned on him and turned heel, which is weird because he was wearing a mask. But anyways, and it was at a Moose Lodge in Tampa. The ring was set outside by a lake. There's pictures of it on my Facebook in one of my albums. But the people sat around the ring in lawn chairs, and I got paid $20 and all the barbecue I could eat.
Nice.
But then the next week, I was in the main event. It was a guy named Tom Laxton, who was just an awesome guy, kind of a Cactus Jack type character in the sense that he was insane. Yeah. And he was doing all kinds of crazy bumps before Jack even broke into business against the Malenko brothers. So, and I got $50 for that. But
did you get the free barbecue though?
No. And it was about 100 miles further from home too.
Oh, damn. So,
but I was only 18 years old. I didn't care.
Well, no, I suppose you don't really do. I mean, if you love wrestling or anything like that, I suppose money really isn't an object. Obviously, you need money to be able to get to these places and all that, but sometimes it's not all about the money.
Well, when you're first starting out, I mean, geez, nowadays guys still don't, they work for free, or they're lucky to get $20, $50. Most of the guys, on the indie circuit will be going, holy mackerel, $50, boy.
I would, to be fair. So, done your wrestling, done your first match. So, taking your first bump. Now, everybody loves taking their first bump, apparently. Do you remember how you felt after taking that? But this bit is purely just for the people who are coming into the business and want to take their first bump. So how did taking your bump feel for the first time?
I can't remember. I mean, for me, I used to, in the 70s as a kid, I had a friend and a couple other friends. We get together in front of other friends and do what you'd call backyard wrestling, not the kind of backyard wrestling that became popular in this era where they're hitting each other with light tubes and doing all kinds of stupid crap. But we emulated what we saw on TV. So we had a basics of what we were doing as kids. I mean, we weren't perfect, but we used to practice what we saw on TV, and we would do it just like that. We didn't do it as if it was real either. We did it like we thought it was.
Yeah.
So when I got to the school, I had an idea of how to do things. It's just then Malenko just obviously perfected it the exact right way. So I really can't say how the first bump felt. I'm sure it wasn't great because the rings at Malenko school weren't exactly soft. He had what they call a low boy ring, which is smaller.
Yeah.
Then he had a full size ring in the school. But I can, geez, we're talking almost 40 years ago. Holy mackerel mode.
Fair enough, man. That's fair enough. So, the Mask Superstar. You've done that gimmick, I believe, when you were just in Suncoast Pro Wrestling. Am I correct?
Yeah, and I did it a lot on like little indie shows and stuff.
So, working from without wearing a mask to wearing a mask, how was that? Because I've never personally wore a mask in the ring. A lot of people say it's completely different and it's weird. And how did you feel about it?
Well, it is different, but it's like anything, you get used to it. And in 1987, Mike Graham and Steve Kern put, not Mike Graham and Steve Kern, Mike Graham and Kevin Sullivan, made Jerry Gray, who was wrestling as Golden Boy Jerry Gray here in Florida for Championship Wrestling in Florida. I was working for him, and they had us become the Mighty Yankees under masks.
Okay.
And we wore masks. I don't know if you know who Mr. Wrestling 2 is, but we had to wear masks like that. And they were very uncomfortable. They didn't stay on very well, but we got used to them. We were the Florida Tag Team Champions. So I didn't lose all the time, although we did cheat to win the titles. But that was Jerry. He put something in his mask. I had nothing to do with it. I swear I didn't know. But anyways.
It's not cheating. It's creatively winning. That's what I say.
Well, the referee didn't see it. So, hey.
There we go.
But when I was a Masked Superstar, I got a better mask, one of the kind of lace up the back, and so it fit a lot better. But for me, I was blind as a bat, or I am blind as a bat without my glasses. So the mask, wearing the mask, especially the good mask, it naturally made you squint. So it kind of helped me because I had to squint a lot anyways.
Oh, nice.
But it was hard, you had to get used to it because it does. It's harder to breathe and all that. But.
Yeah. How long did you under the mask for?
Suncoast Wrestling lasted, I think, about 3 or 4 years, and we had a television show, and that was another thing that people used to like. There was a few people that always bother you. Oh, well, you stole the Masked Superstar gimmick, because that was originally a guy named Bill Eadie in the 70s and 80s, who went on to become Demolition, or one half of Demolition. But in 1989, the great Malenko called me and said, Bob, I got this guy named Henry Raines who's going to start a wrestling show, which was like only 40 miles from my house. We're going to do TV. It's going to be called Suncoast Pro Wrestling. I want you to come in and be the Masked Superstar. You're going to feud with my son, Dean. And I'm like, what are you, crazy? I don't want to do that. I don't want to wrestle Dean. He's horrible. I'm just kidding. The point is, Great Malenko asked me if I wanted to do that, and I wouldn't say no to Great Malenko for anything. If he called me and said, look, we got to bury some bodies, I'd be like, all right, I'll grab a shovel. Okay. But the point is, that's why I did it. I didn't steal Edie's gimmick. And for the record, Bill Malenko's the one who gave him the gimmick anyways in the 70s. He was his manager.
Yeah.
But there's some trivia for you people out there. So Malenko asked me to do it, and I said, of course, yes, I'll do that. It would be fun. So for a while on that show, I was like their top heel. We got to do interviews on TV, and I was a champion here and then, but I feuded with Dean Malenko and other people, but Dean being the best.
Yeah. And
the best guy I've ever worked with. And it was just so much fun.
Yeah. No, it sounds great. No, that's what wrestling's all about, is having fun as well. That's
the reason you never had to grow up. I spent all the years in wrestling, and I never had to grow up. It's amazing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
I only grew out.
Oh man. So you, like I said in the introduction, you worked in WWF and WCW. Which ones were your favorite stories, memories from working them? See, I go off now when I do all this. There's so many questions. I always just tend to go off track and I mess up like I'm doing now, rambling on. Working in WWF and WCW.
I loved them both, because I loved being part of the show. I knew my place. I hate to use the word jobber and enhancement talent. I know a lot of people out there love those terms, but I hate them. I like the term. I know. Is anybody out there sitting down? Because I'm going to give you the proper term. Do you know what it is?
Go on.
It's a little out there. It's edgy. It's almost visionary, but the actual proper terminology is pro wrestler. Okay, pro wrestler is the actual terminology. Just because you're the first match, or just because you lose every week on TV, or just because you're not the superstar with all the money in the bank and the girls lining up at your house, you're still a pro wrestler. You're trained at the pro wrestling school. You travel the same road. You work out at the same gym. You bang the same rats. Did I just say that? Because that's probably not what I should have said. The point is, you're a pro wrestler.
Yeah.
So I hate the term jobber. I hate the term enhancement talent. I like the term pro wrestler because that's what we were.
Yeah. So,
but again, I had a great time. I loved it.
Favorite matches in WWF?
Oh man, so WWF, you know, I was only there for like a year because I just got tired of getting hurt all the time, and that's when I started slowing down wrestling. But I mean, wrestling with the 1-2-3 kid in WWF was blast. Bob Holly, Lex Luger. I mean, geez, there's so many. Bam Bam Bigelow was easy. Adam Bomb.
Duke the Dumpster, I believe, is one person he'd been against. Am I right?
Yeah, he was easy. I mean, most of the guys are easy. I can't think of anybody who wasn't. I worked with more people in WCW, or more legends in WCW. But
about what? Yeah, favorite matches in WCW then.
Oh, geez, Bobby Eaton, Arn Anderson, Steamboat, Sting, Cactus Jack was always a blast. I mean, there's so many.
Yeah,
the Steiner brothers were fun. Road Warriors. A lot of people don't like those two. Like, hey, you're Road Warriors. You know, they were easy to work with. So was the Steiners. I worked with them tons of times. They were easy. Although Rick Steiner gave me a fat lip once. I don't think it was intentional. You'd have to ask him. He'd probably go, I don't even know who Bob Cook is. I'm like, oh, okay. But he said she gave him a fat lip. Well, I probably did.
Yeah. No, that's fine. So do you keep in contact with any of these any of these wrestling legends? That's something I'm always interested in, you know. So obviously you've wrestled with these guys, you've gone down the same roads, like you said, with these guys, but now you're, I hate to say the word older, now you've leveled up in life. you still in contact with all these
Go ahead
guys?
and say it. Now that I'm close to death, well, let me think. No, you know, wrestling's like anything. You know, once you're away from it, you lose contact with people. Although we do see a lot of, I'm stuttering here because I don't know why, but we have a thing we call a Legends Lunch every 3 months in Tampa. It's hosted by B. Brian Blair. Yes, that's a name dropper. B. Brian Blair, and he's been doing it for 20 years. And a bunch of us get together in Tampa for what I just said, the Legends Lunch. We just had one a couple weeks ago. And a lot of the Tampa legends, like Steve Kern, and we just lost one of them, Buddy Colt, last week.
I did see, yeah.
But a lot of guys, Danny Spivey comes, Cuban Assassin, Dave Sierra, Ricky Santana, Haku. Everybody loves Haku, great guy. Just a whole bunch of guys, and those are always a blast.
I can imagine.
Every lunch we honor two people. It's almost like a Hall of Fame thing. Okay. Brian has this huge plaque where everybody that gets honored gets their name on the plaque, and they get their own personal plaque to take home. And once the big plaque is full, it's going to actually go in the Wrestling Hall of Fame in Waterloo, Iowa, I think. I'm not sure. You have to ask Brian. I don't know. He knows what he's doing. He's Brian Blair, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
But those lunches are fun, and I'm like on the board of directors, if you want to call it that, and I help decide who we're going to honor, and I help promote it. And, you know, we always have a really good crowd. Even the last one was in November, and then we had one just 2 weeks ago. We had good crowds, even though the coronavirus.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds brilliant. You know, it sounds like it's a good idea. You know, because you guys paved the way for us, us younger generation. So why shouldn't you all be honored? Why shouldn't you all have an appreciation lunch and all that?
Yeah, and it was originally started, you know, a little over 20 years ago now, and it was when Hiro Matsuda. I don't know if you know who Hiro Matsuda was. He's a guy who trained Hulk Hogan, and he trained Lex Luger, and he trained Ron Simmons, and a bunch of other guys. Great guy. But when him and Gordon Soley, and I know you know who Gordon Soley is, they
I've heard of
both
the
had
name.
cancer. And a way to cheer them up, Brian and Mike Graham and Steve Kerr and Bugsy McGraw, Buddy Colt, and some other people started the lunches on a smaller scale just to kind of cheer up Hero and Gordon, get their mind off their situation, get together, laugh, talk about the old times.
Yeah.
Probably drink heavily. I don't know if they're
Yeah.
lucky. And then it just kind of grew from there. And that's why we still do it. And it really is. It's a camaraderie. It's just seeing old friends, hearing old stories, even if you heard them 100 times. It's wrestling stories, so they're fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, that all sounds fantastic. Yeah.
And we have people that come, like Eddie Mansfield was coming last year. Eddie, I don't know if you know who Eddie Mansfield is, but
No,
he was part of the famous 2020 episode where Dr. D slapped the reporter years ago. Fantastic.
Oh yes, yeah. Oh, no, that all
But
sounds-
lots of, and we see people that, like a guy comes all the way from Michigan for the lunches. We see once, in a great while.
Nice. That does sound really cool. That's similar. That would, if something happened like that over here.
mean,
Well,
Brian-
actually, sorry, there is actually something over here like that. It's a British wrestlers reunion where all the old timers, they all come together and pretty much do what you guys do. Actually, it's I'd love to go to one now.
Yeah, and ours is only open to people in the business or that were in the business, and obviously their friends or invited guests. It's not open to the marks, especially the disrespectful ones. A lot of the people who go to lunches are people who are fans and they just became friends with us over the years. So because there's like guidelines and rules. You can't bug the guys for pictures and autographs because it's not a freaking fan fest. It's a get together of friends and family from the wrestling business.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough.
Even the great Joe Malenko, who did you have him on your show? Because he comes to the lunch.
Unfortunately, a lot of timing was a bit of an issue. That was just with his personal life. But he will be coming on eventually. Just trying to sort of finalize a date when he's available because he's a very busy man, as you all know.
Yeah, he was at our lunch though 2 weeks ago.
But yeah, we will be getting Joe Malenko on. I can't wait to hear his story.
Yeah, he's a great guy. And
Yeah.
the last two matches he ever had, guess who his tag team partner was?
Someone called Bob Cook, maybe.
That's correct. The irony is like the last match the Great Malenko ever had, it was me as the match superstar and my great friend who played my manager back then, Penelope Paradise. Yes, she's a lady. Against a guy named Frankie Reyes, who
Yeah,
did
I
you
know
have Frankie
Frank.
on your show? Frankie, yeah, I know Frankie
Great
forever.
guy.
It was Frankie and the Great Malenko against me and Penelope on Suncoast Wrestling. That was the Great Malenko's last match. So for me to be in Joe Malenko's last two matches, even though the last match we had was this shit's, ask Joe, he'll tell you.
Yeah.
But we were a tag team. The one before that though was pretty good. That was only a couple years ago too, by the way.
I think I've seen something about you being in the Malenko Cup.
Yeah, you don't want to watch that.
2019.
That match is all right for what it was, but I'm old. What do you want from me?
Well, it is what it is, isn't it? At least you was part of it. I mean, what an honor to be a part of that as well.
Did we win? I don't remember that. Darn, I think maybe we did win.
We'll say you did win. We'll say.
Yeah, I know it's on YouTube, but you had to win. There's this woman that I absolutely love who's like one of my best friends. She was there. So you got to win in front of her. Come on.
Got to keep her happy, haven't you? But if anybody is interested in watching that, go over to YouTube
and choose not to watch it.
So, am I correct in saying you are retired professional?
No.
No.
I'm planning on wrestling in July and maybe some other times this year if I can get in the shape I want to get in. It's a slow build because there's this issue I have. Going to the gym, I hate going to the gym, but I go there. I hate working out, but I work out. I do it. I do good. I'm successful at it, but then I have the big downfall. I can't control my diet.
Yeah. Diet. Yeah.
Although I stopped drinking real Mountain Dew a couple months ago, and that's helped a lot. I drink the Mountain Dew Zero. I never thought I would switch, but
surprising.
now I'm used to it.
It really is surprising what the switch can do in my experience as well. It really is surprising over just something so little. the little things that matter.
Because I love Mountain Dew, and drink a can of Mountain Dew is like 200 calories, but now I'm drinking Mountain Dew Zero, and there's no calories.
Good. So so you said you're training to come back. Who have you got your eye on right now that you would love to be able to wrestle?
Oh, you mean like in today's business? I don't know, because I couldn't keep up with anybody in today's business.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many guys, they do things that I wouldn't even imagine doing back when I was younger.
I know.
The athletic ability of some of the guys today is incredible.
Yeah.
I don't watch the wrestling like I used to. I try to catch it here and there, but I used to be religiously watching it. I quit watching Raw and that after Ronda Rousey left. Not necessarily because she left, even though I love Ronda Rousey. Who doesn't love Ronda Rousey? Probably your husband. I mean, come on. What husband really loves his wife? Let's be serious. But the point is, I love Ronda Rousey. And then she left, and I kind of lost interest in stuff because I lost interest in the character. There wasn't nothing wrong with the shows. I just kind of lost interest.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those guys that just will sit there and, rag on the shows every week. If I don't watch them, what do I have a right to rag on them?
Yeah. I got one more question before we go on to the fan questions. Do you think social media kills wrestling nowadays?
If you allow it to. I don't think it does. If you can allow it to, or you can not allow it to. I mean, you're in control of what you see or how you interpret things. Like there's people that say, "Oh, I read the spoilers of the show. I'm not going to watch." Well, here's an idea. Don't read the freaking spoilers of the show. I want to watch a movie coming up. I'm not going to find out what the ending is, am I? No. Why? Because I want to watch the damn movie. It's like people that get mad. I can't believe I was at work and I looked at Facebook. Now I know who won the main event of WrestleMania. I was going to watch when I get home. Well, don't look at Facebook, idiot.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's not my responsibility because you're at work not to post what I thought of a match. Don't look at it.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
I don't watch. If I don't want to see something or know something, I don't watch or pay attention until I get a chance to watch. And I don't like to watch or know who wins the matches or what the show's about until after I watch it.
Well, there we go. There's some advice from Bob Cook.
And the people who sit there,
don't go on social media.
The people will say, "Well, it's so predictable." It's not predictable unless you sit there and predict it. Watch it. Don't predict it. What are you predicting it for? Oh, I knew that was going to happen. Just sit back and enjoy it. And if you don't enjoy it, why the hell are you watching it? I don't like the old TV show I Love Lucy. You know what I watch every single night? It's not I Love Lucy.
I don't know what you watch every night.
Well, my point is, if you don't like something or if you can't enjoy it, why watch it?
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Most people seem to just watch it to complain. And I do that once in a while. Like I actually watched the entire AEW show last Wednesday, and I watched that horrible pay-per-view they had a few days earlier because my kid got it and invited some friends over, and it was freaking horrible. And I don't want to hate anything, but if I see something, I'm not going to just automatically like it because it's new or because I'm supposed to. I thought it was horrible.
Yeah. Everybody's entitled.
But I watched the NXT show last week, and I thought it was pretty darn good for the most. Not everything, but
yeah.
It's less goofy than the AEW show. AEW show is almost like it's a clown and pony show.
Yeah, I would say NXT do have the better brand. Even WWE, I would say it's better than AEW. I've tried to get behind AEW. There's things that let it down. I would say I just can't get behind AEW myself.
Yeah, they promised you something different. They promised you a more sports-based professional wrestling show, and they gave you the opposite times 10.
It's a shame that they get branded as like a WWE reject kind of show.
Well, I mean, what do they expect? I mean, they promoted a huge star as their new sign, and it was Christian Cage.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. And then what happened? Okay, they make this big deal that there's going to be this huge star. Everybody thinks it's Lesnar or CM Punk. Why they want it to be a CM Punk, I don't know. But that's who they thought it was. And then it's Christian Cage. And then the huge rating they got on the Wednesday night show 3 days later was 200,000 less viewers. That's not success.
No.
what Tony Khan has is he's got too many people that are out for their own benefit in his ear, and he's not willing to say no, or he doesn't know enough to say no, or what's good or what's bad, and he just goes along with it.
Yeah.
And more power to him. And if he would give me a job, I would say he's the greatest promoter of all time and doesn't look completely goofy on TV. I would say that. You don't look goofy on TV. Now sign the check.
Yeah. No, I agree. I 100% agree with that. It is. I think that's where wrestling gets a bit goes bad, is when too many people are out for themselves as opposed to trying to help each other out. Because I think that's what wrestling should be. It should be about helping each other out, not just yourself.
And that's what people are always saying. Well, wrestlers should be allowed to show their real personality. They shouldn't have scripted promos. They should be able to do this and do that. Well, look what happens when they are. AEW is just a chaotic mess where, Jericho's got too much control, and almost everything he does is just stupid, ridiculous crap. And I get it. He's more successful than me. He's better than me. He's more famous than me. He's richer than me. But that doesn't make what he's doing good. Just makes him successful and better than me and richer than me. Doesn't mean it's good though.
I could speak to you for hours about all of that, but we must.
There's a lot of people who've been in a lot of movies and they made a lot of money and people know who they are, but the movies are crap.
Yeah. It's just one of them things, and it really, Unfortunately, you can't have it all, as they say.
And who knows? Maybe someone will finally get with the right people and they'll click and they'll get it in their brain what they're doing is wrong and they'll correct it. But I don't see it happening anytime soon.
Who knows what's going to happen? So my questions are done. I now have fan questions. You have quite a lot of fan questions. I've taken some from you actually when you shared the post about coming on, which thank you for that. I do appreciate the share.
Well, I don't have a life, so I figured out what the heck.
Yeah, do that kid a favor. Why not? So, first question is from Michael. I want to say Ruben. I apologize if I pronounced your name wrong. He asks, "What are your memories of the late Buzz Sawyer?" I want to say Sawyer.
Oh wow, that's Buzz Sawyer was. Next to Big Van Vader, Buzz Sawyer was the biggest walking, talking, and most likely farting asshole to ever grace God's green earth.
Oh, damn.
An absolute jerk. A jerk and a half. I can tell you a story with the day he died. I'm in the WCW locker room. A certain former I'm not going to say his name, but a certain former WCW World Heavyweight Champion. He was the first world champion of this particular color, by the way. Wink, wink.
Okay.
And he said, "Hey, man," or someone said, "Hey, did you hear Buzz Sawyer died?" He goes, "Really? Where's his grave? I have to take a piss." So Buzz was not a well-liked man. And I was standing right there. Now, I don't get me wrong. I liked watching Buzz work, but he took advantage of guys, especially the TV guys. Those guys that they like to call, pro wrestlers. Well, they don't like to call them that, but I do. But anyways, and he would, beat guys up and rough them up, and there's no call for that.
Yeah. So I've seen somebody put about Vader as well. I can't remember what the comment was. It was on your post what you shared, sir, about was Vader is nice.
Oh, that's just somebody that knows me and knows that I hate Vader and that Vader was a huge jerk, and so he's just being funny. So yeah, a lot of people, they don't know Vader, the real Vader back in that era. What he became later in life, I can't say. When you're successful, you're rich, and then you become older, you become more humble, you're dying of cancer, you find God, whatever it is that gets you through the day, you're not necessarily going to be the same person, even though I've heard stories that, he technically was the same person until the end. But in the time I was there, and I'm going by my own personal experience and the personal experience of several people I know, he was an absolute jerk. He hurt more people than anybody in his era. He was constantly told to stop hurting people and he didn't listen. That's a jerk.
Yeah. I agree. No disrespect to anybody who's listening. We're not trying to disrespect anybody. This is just, what we're saying. And yeah, that is.
Well, just because somebody was a jerk in real life doesn't make him any less of a jerk in death. That's the way it goes.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, I was respectful when he died. I didn't go, hey, hi ho, Vader's dead. I didn't do that. I didn't say a word about it. I just, I was being a nice guy. But that's years ago. Now I can, go back to being a Vader hater.
The next question is from Johnny Rose. Big fan of yours. He is such a big fan. When he seen this when he seen that this was announced, messages, load of questions for you, load of questions. Bless him. His first question to you is Dory Funk Jr., Jerry Gray, Nasty Ned Bradley. Who's the finest teammate? Who did you have the best chemistry with?
Well, it's got to be Jerry, because Jerry and I were the Mighty Yankees, and Jerry was one of those guys who's just really good, so smooth. And matches against Jerry, me and Jerry against each other, because Jerry ran his own show, started in '88, and I was always on his shows, usually in the main events against him or in tag matches, whatever. Man, we had so much fun, and there was you didn't even have to. We didn't talk about nothing because we weren't even in the same dressing room in those days. Just so much fun, so smooth, so easy. Now, again, being with Dory too. Again, speaking of Jerry, was Jerry Gray and Bugsy McGraw against me and Dory at a show in the main event, and it was just fantastic. Because you don't talk about nothing. You just go in the ring and you do it.
Yeah, chemistry.
And Nasty Ned, he's another one. Just a great guy. He was from the Suncoast wrestling days, and he also did a lot of the trips to WCW, and they put us together a few times against the Rock and Roll Express and Z-Man and Pillman and different guys. And Ned, just a great guy. All those three guys, fantastic.
Nice.
The last match I had actually was me and Lanny Poffo at Dory Funk Jr. show about a year and a half ago. He had a show in Ocala. It was me and Lanny against two of Dory's students. And Lanny, at 65 years old, maybe a little younger at that point, still did his moonsault for the finish. Yes, we won. But I love Dory. Dory and his wife, Terry, they're my favorites.
Oh, nice.
Awesome people.
I'm hopefully going to get Larry on here. Or Larry. Yeah, I know what I meant. Hopefully. I completely forgot what his name was. Lanny. Oh well.
Oh, yeah. Lanny Poffo.
Yeah, that's it. I don't know what happened. And my mind just went on. I'm hopefully going to get him on here at some point as well. That'd be cool.
He's a great guy.
Next question from Johnny. He would like me to ask you about the Terry Funk boots you wore.
Oh, those what they were originally called Tinny Llamas. They're made by a famous cowboy boot company in this country called Tony Llama. And Terry Funk is the guy who made them famous. Other guys wore them too. A guy named Jonathan Boyd, who was one of the original sheep herders with Luke Williams. But Terry was the most famous one to wear. And if anybody knows what I'm talking about, they're the boots that look like cowboy boots, and the bottoms look like tennis shoes. And Terry wore his everywhere. And I first met Terry in the business in '86, and he gave me a pair of those boots at the Sportatorium in Tampa. And those are the boots that I wore in a lot of my matches, because they were just so freaking comfortable and they were so cool. And of course, Terry Funk's my favorite wrestler of all time, and he's the one that made me want to become a wrestler. So, when Terry came in the dressing room, I know I'm rambling, but when Terry came in the Sportatorium that day, he had those boots on. He had an earring in his ear dangling down. It was actually like a fish hook as an earring. And I went, that's it. I'm getting an earring. I went out and got an earring like later that day. I was like, if Terry Funk can wear an earring, by God, I can do it.
Nice.
But as I got to know him, he gave me a pair of those boots. And then I asked him where he got the boots. And he goes, I'm going to tell you where to get them, but don't tell anybody else, because everybody will be wearing them. But he told me where to get them. And sometime throughout my life since then, I've had like 40 pair of them. I don't have that many now, but I still have the original pair he gave me. Nice. And I still have 3 other pair. I actually just got a pair off eBay, brand new, 35 years old, mint condition.
Oh, that's awesome.
But they're very cool boots, I think, because they're just original. And I used to wear mine all over the country, all the time outside the ring, because they're not wrestling boots. It's just that they have like a sole, like a wrestling boot has. And they're just so comfortable. And then as I got more pairs of them, I just took the pair that Terry gave me and started wearing them in the ring, and wore my other pairs around the country. But every time he'd go somewhere, people would make comments on me. Oh man, where'd you get those? Those are cool,
Yeah. Oh, nice.
Because they're just unusual,
Yeah.
Cowboy boots, tennis shoes.
That's cool. Another question from Johnny. Did you ever discuss being a masked superstar with Bill?
Bill Eadie?
Yeah, that's the one. Sorry, yeah. Sorry about the misprint.
No, but a funny story though. It's like when I started as the masked superstar for Suncoast, Bill Eadie had already quit using the gimmick years later. Years earlier. He was Demolition by then. I think when they came around, what, in '87 or something, and we started doing that in '89. So it was around 1990 or so that Bill Eadie found out we were doing that because we started making a little bit more news and stuff. And the Wrestling Observer was doing reports on our shows and everything because I did color commentary on a lot of the shows and I would just say a lot of stupid stuff that was amusing and it made the Wrestling Observer, and because the Masked Superstar character was a very like non-politically correct guy. He was very racist. He was very, because it just fit the times. It was hilarious. It was fun. So calm down, people. It's all show. It's not real.
Yeah, something you couldn't get away with now.
Oh no. A lot of the stuff that guy said, I'm using him like a third person. But a lot of stuff that I said as the Masked Superstar, you couldn't get away with now. But anyways, what was I saying? Oh, Bill Eadie actually. I don't know what he did, if he threatened legal action or what, but we actually stopped calling me the Masked Superstar. We did a whole segment on the show where my manager Penelope went out and goes, because she was like the heel, and she's, we want to tell you something, and it's obvious, even though you people are stupid, we're going to let you, it's obvious. The Masked Superstar wears a mask. From this day forward, he's just going to be called a superstar because it's obvious he wears a mask. So he just called me the superstar from that moment on, which I always thought was an insult to Malenko because it was, again, Malenko's the guy that gave Bill Eadie his start. And he was the Masked Superstar with Malenko as his manager. And then he's being nitpicky about a little freaking local TV show where we weren't doing him any disrespect, and he wasn't using the gimmick anyway. But it is what it is.
Yeah, damn.
I don't think I've ever actually even met Bill Eadie personally. I always thought he was great. The Masked Superstar, the original Masked Superstar character, I thought was awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Last question for Johnny is depends if you want to go into detail on this. If you don't want to, completely fine. He's asking, in the IWA, he had one of Kerry Von Erich's last ever matches. Was Kerry okay at the time? Was it drugs or bad mental health signs at all?
It's funny when that day I met Kerry I remember exactly where it was. It's the Bradenton Auditorium or Bradenton Manatee Civic Center. That's where it was. Same place we used to actually do the Suncoast Pro Wrestling taping sometimes.
Okay.
But I wrestled Kerry on that show. It's on YouTube. But I met Kerry 5 times before the match, if you know what I mean. He'd walk by me and he'd go, "Hey, I'm Kerry Von Erich." I was like, yeah, Kerry, I met you about an hour ago. Oh, yeah. He'd walk by you again 2 hours later. "Hey, yeah, I'm Kerry Von Erich." So he either really forgot he was a space cadet or he's just ribbing me. I don't know. But when the bell rang and we went out there and the bell rang, man, he was awesome. Fantastic. Easy as could be, light as a feather, everything he did, perfect timing. He called the things here and there. Just really easy. Early in the day, he was playing with a radio-controlled car, in the arena.
Yeah. So Daniel Powell, he's asking, for someone who's trying to get on shows, what's the best way of networking to new companies?
Like I know now, I don't wrestle now. Now it has to be real easy. In my day, you'd go to you'd get booked on a show or show up at a show, whatever, and someone would be in the show and like your work and say, "Hey, I got this guy that's running a show next month. I can get you on it." Okay. And then it would just kind of domino effect to there. And you'd start getting a little reputation and get contacts as you go. Nowadays, it's how hard would it be? You can email people, you can instant message them, DM them, Twitter them, Zoom them, whatever you got to do.
Yeah.
And it's easy to put together videos, although if you don't have any good video, I recommend maybe not doing that. But it's got to be easier now than ever.
Yeah. So it's just the case, just
put
yourself out there.
Sorry.
That's all right. Go on. Go ahead.
Just going to say, like, every company has either a website or a Facebook page or, they have Twitter, they have Instagram. I mean, if you got some decent promo pictures, here's one thing you should do if you're trying to get booked. get some real wrestling boots. Get an outfit that looks like a wrestler's outfit. Don't get a pair of jeans. Don't get a pair of shorts at Goodwill. Don't get tennis shoes and kick pads. Get some professional wrestling boots. When I was a kid and I started in 1981, and the great first day, Malenko gives us this little pamphlet and he goes, "This is where you get your boots. This is where you get your trunks." I couldn't wait to order that stuff. I mean, as soon as my first boots, I used to wear them around the house when I first got them. I mean, because I was training to be a pro wrestler, and part of the whole shtick or show or part of being a pro wrestler is the outfit, being, you show up at the show with your bag and you dress out. You don't want to go looking like the same person sitting in the front row. 5 of the people in the front row are fat wearing a t-shirt and tennis shoes. You don't want to look like that in the ring. It's okay to be fat. I'm just saying that because, I'm fat.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, yeah.
But the point is, get some real wrestling boots. Look like a professional a little bit, at least. Don't order pizza for like a month. Quit smoking cigarettes for a week. Put down the booze for 3 days. There's your boot money.
Yeah. There we go, Dan. Hope that helps. Next question. Johnny.
If you get a stimulus check, buy some boots.
Yeah, that seems to be the trend at the moment, the stimulus checks. Next question. Johnny Glow. I'd love for that's you, me. I'd love for CueBall to ask what he thinks about Tony Schiavone.
I mean,
yes, I can answer it.
Back in the old days, Tony was okay. He was never the most personable guy. He usually walked around, I almost got the impression he thought he was above wrestling. I could be wrong because I didn't really know him that well. I mean, I speak to him here and there. Most of the time, he was just kept to himself. At least, I'm talking from WCW days. But as AEW goes, I think he's horrible. Most of the time, he's absolutely horrible. His over phony enthusiasm. Oh my God, I can't believe, it's just so horrible. Remember, like when they did that thing with Matt Hardy, I can't believe he's teleporting to the ring. Oh my God, just, shoot me. No, seriously, shoot me. Now, Jim Ross, on the other hand, I mean, he's just like one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah. Yeah, great comment. Yeah, one of my
favorites. I personally hate 3-man commentator teams. It's just a waste of money. It's everybody's trying to get their little jab in here and there. Yeah. And 2-man teams are the best. They don't even need to. They let Jim Ross call the action in AEW. Let one guy get that Morrow guy. I think his name was Morrow in NXT. Bring him back and let him call all the shows because that guy was good.
Yeah, he was really good. Yeah, I know who you mean. Pretty good.
Mamma mia! But he just had real enthusiasm.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes a great commentator. You have enthusiasm and you're essentially in you and calling the matches, I suppose.
But again, I mean, Tony, it's that back to the argument. Who are you? You're Bob Cook. You're nobody. You're nothing. Tony Schiavone's successful. He's a legend. Meh. Yeah, but he's also old. He's fat and he's horrible. So, what are you going to do? Lucky him.
Yeah, fair enough. Next question, Andrew. I'm going to say your last name, and if I get it wrong, I'm sorry. Costigan. Might be that. Apologies if I got it wrong. Let me know if I got it wrong. He's asking, who was your all-time favorite in-ring competitor to go toe-to-toe with?
Honestly, it was a guy named Rick Ryder, one of the few people that I trained back in 1985, I think. Rick and I had so many fun matches, just working independent shows in Florida for over 10 years. We were either in the main events, semi-main events, in steel cage matches, tape fist, bull rope, bunkhouse, street fights, all kinds of matches you can imagine. Bloodbaths, cage, I think I said cage matches, whatever, any match you can imagine. We just had so much fun. We had matches that, people would talk about them today. I'm not bragging. I'm just saying people would, if they see me today, say, I remember you and Rick, boy, you guys really had, we used to just beat the crap out of each other, but not really. People just thought we were, Like I have an article at home, I'm home now. I have an article somewhere around here from years ago that said, think wrestling's fake. The headline was, think wrestling's fake, think again. And it was based on, it was based on a whole show that they were reported on. But one of the main reasons they brought it up is because me and Rick had a match. And they go, these two guys are really going at it, blah, blah, blah. We weren't. That's the point. Yeah. And that's the biggest compliment you can get because everybody thinks that, and especially nowadays, that you should be stiff, oh, I want him to hit harder. No one wants that. Well, maybe they do now, but in our day, no one, like the Road Warriors didn't tell you, hey man, hit me harder out there, would you? Punch you right in the face. They didn't want that, and certainly you
Yeah.
didn't have the guts to do that if you wanted to. But the object of wrestling is to make it look real without being real, look stiff without being stiff. Anybody can throw a real punch. There's no art in that. The art is like Jerry Lawler, as light as a feather, but in his prime, he was throwing punches that looked like he was killing guys.
Yeah.
And I don't even know why I went off on that tangent, but
It's all good. It's all good. Don't worry about it. Last question by Mark Russ. He would like to ask you about Carl Gotch's sleeper.
yeah, that's a story. Carl Gotch was one of Malenko's best friends, and anybody who doesn't know who Carl Gotch is, there goes back to that saying what I said earlier. Learn your history. Carl Gotch is like, I think they called him like the god of wrestling in Japan or something. Like one of the most legit badass guys to ever walk the earth. And he used to come to the school once in a while, and just mainly to see Malenko, but he would put us through our paces, make us do calisthenics and squats and different things. And one time he was at the school and he goes, let me show you boys how to do the sleeper hold. And he made me stand up and he showed us how to do the sleeper hold. If it was real, because people would think, well, the sleeper hold, man, the sleeper hold is real if you do it right. And he put me to sleep. I was like, next thing I know, I'm on the ground like, oh, where am I? My jaw hurt for like a month later. But that's my Carl Gotch story. And Mark Ross is somebody that I knew since I was a kid. There was an arena down here in Fort Myers, Florida, that I used to go to every month called the Lee Civic Center. And Mark was one of the fans that was there. This is when I was just a kid in the late 70s. And we'd go to the shows and he took the best pictures and he would sell the pictures at the shows. And I bought pictures from him. And I've become friends with him ever since then. We just see each other at the show. I think he's been to our Legends lunch before. I might be wrong, but anyways, I've known him literally since I was a kid.
Oh, nice.
So, I was a kid and a fan, but then I became a wrestler, and that's kind of cool, right?
Yeah, it really is. It is cool, Yeah, so that's the fan questions then. I have no other questions for you, Bob. Thank you very much for coming on, Bob. It's been great to listen to your story.
Yeah, hopefully I didn't ramble too much.
But this is why it's called CueBall's Bearded Rambles, because they like to ramble. See, I thought about it.
See, the one thing I forgot to push was the Cauliflower Alley Club, which I'm the social media director for. And if you don't know what the Cauliflower Alley Club, that goes back to knowing wrestling history and everything about it.
I'm aware myself. I am aware of the Cauliflower Alley Club. I know you have.
Are you a member of the Cauliflower Alley Club?
I am not a member. There is. I'm never going to be a member of the Cauliflower Alley Club, am I?
Why?
I don't know. I just don't think.
The Cauliflower Alley Club is open for everyone, wrestlers, fans, because you know what, the Cauliflower Alley Club is something that's been around for over 55 years. The president of the Cauliflower Alley Club is my good friend B. Brian Blair, and it is an organization that helps wrestlers who have fallen on hard financial times, whether they're having problems with medical bills, house pay, whatever problems they have, they step up and help them. It's a nonprofit organization, and they raise money through people who become members, and also the big reunion that we do every year, which got canceled last year thanks to that Corona gimmick thingy.
Yeah.
And we're supposed to have it again this year in April, but it got postponed to September, so we're hoping we can still have it this year. But anybody can join the Cauliflower Alley Club. If anybody's listening, you go to caulifloweralleyclub.org and you join. It's only $30 a year. You get 4 newsletters. You get a nice, cool 8x10 membership certificate to hang on your wall, and make you feel important.
That sounds cool.
You get discounts for the reunions, and the reunions are awesome because we honor a bunch of, again, it's like a Hall of Fame gimmick. We honor, and legends show up there. Like this year, we're honoring the Great Medusa and a bunch of other legends. And it's just an awesome organization. And it's been around again for 55 years, over 55 years. It was started by an old wrestler called Mike McGursky, another history thing you should know if you're into wrestling history. He was an actor and whatever. It was originally started to help wrestlers, boxers, and Hollywood stuntmen. And then it just kind of morphed into just for wrestlers. But over the years, the legendary presidents of the club, Nick Bockwinkel, Red Bastien, and others. And again, it's just a fantastic organization.
Sounds great. It really does.
Everybody should be a member. Again, I know I'm rambling, but I should have brought this up earlier because it's so important. And like I said, I'm the social media director for the club. I post all the stuff on the Facebook page, Twitter, Instagram, that kind of stuff. Yeah. And everybody should join because it's for a good cause. And I think every wrestling school should make it a requirement that you join because you're paying back to a business. You're just starting out and you're kind of giving back to the business because you're helping people down the road. Lots of legends have been helped over the years. We don't give out names unless they want to, but Paul Orndorff's been helped. Jake the Snake's been helped. Lots of legends have been helped over the years who, needed the help.
Yeah.
The California Alley Club helped pay for Kamala's funeral, different things.
Yeah.
So it's a great organization. It's very inexpensive. You can become a lifetime member for like $300. It's just a great organization.
I might have a look into that myself, actually. That sounds great.
And again, it's for wrestlers and fans. That's the important thing. It's fans can join, and it's almost like the fan. Like if you appreciated anybody in the business that gave their all for all the years, and you go to the reunions, the sad part of the reunions is you'll see some of the legends that are they're in wheelchairs. Like Harley Race would come to the reunions, and he's in a wheelchair, and he's like one of the greatest wrestlers of all time.
Yeah.
And it's sad to see these guys. They sacrifice their body for what they love, but again, as a fan, you should, you see that and you just, man, I gotta join this club because it's helping out these guys that I watched as a kid that I love, and I appreciate what they did. And by showing that appreciation, here's your $30 or $300 if you're so inclined.
Yeah.
And you get a cool newsletter every 3 months and gives you all the information, different things, and cool stories, history, historical pictures, and different things.
That sounds cool. Oh, that sounds really good. I think you sold that to me, especially. So I'm going to go and have a look into that.
Awesome.
And for anybody who is watching, who is interested.
Yeah, anybody out there who's not, if you can't join, I understand that we're in hard financial times.
Yeah.
But again, $30 a year, a couple of less pizzas a year, and you got your membership.
Yeah.
But again, if you can't join, share the information.
Yeah. Do your bit by sharing everything. Yeah, there we go. So that comes to the conclusion. No, that's wrong. That's the wrong word. The end of the Rambles. Bob, thank you very much for coming on and sharing your story and sharing the Cauliflower Alley Club with us. It's been good. Even though you said yourself you probably haven't got a story, but you definitely did, and I enjoyed listening to it. So thank you very much for coming on.
I appreciate it, and I apologize for not being video, but in retrospect, your fans would appreciate it.
No, like I said to you in the messages, no judgment from me. As long as you feel comfortable, that's what's important to me. So,
well, I'm not necessarily comfortable. I should be sleeping right now, but hey,
Yeah, you should. So thank you for taking time out of your day, Bob. This has been Bob Cook, wrestling veteran. I've been the beer drinking, bald-headed brawler, CueBall. Stay safe, stay positive, like, subscribe to my channel. #